Because you go on Amazon.
You know, the problem is they could make 100,000 units, and all you see is the 10 worst or the 10 best.
I know. See, that's the problem with the reviews, even if they're verified reviews.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Who cares if they're verified?
I mean, all it means is... but I'm not sure. I don't even know if that's a company.
In one of my APCs, I've replaced the batteries.
I like that because you can replace them on certain models of the APC.
So,
yeah.
You know, also you don't know what they'd say, well, I just had a computer plugged in. Well, it was a computer and a fucking toaster.
Right, you don't know what they're actually using it for.
And a fucking toaster. No.
I
just like the way that sounded. I'm sorry.
But this is my baby right here.
I use Cyber Power.
Cyber Power, okay.
See the size of mine, though?
We got like 4 of them.
You even pick that bitch up.
I'm not gonna even talk to Eric because he's by my favorite freaking store, at Micro Center.
Oh yeah, that's where I get it all from.
Oh, you're Sean Cole's live, guys. Sean Cole's live.
Okay.
No, you're okay. You're okay. I'm. This is only for us. This is totally private.
Don't fuck up and say anything stupid, guys.
No, until I turn on the other camera, you guys can do whatever you want. It's only when the other camera's on that it will be affected. I need to run over there.
How do I tell? How do I tell? Someone tell me real quick. How do I know?
How do you know what?
That you're online, so I don't...
I put a link in the Discord.
Okay, there it is.
Sorry. And I sent everyone an email as well.
Damn, I'm such a noob. What'd they call me? The new John Hill?
He's the new John Hill.
FNG, my friend. FNG. Fucking new guy.
I love you, John. Come back soon.
Too funny. Too funny. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So I think I'm done with everything I need to do over there.
I need to upgrade browser figures.
I think in the future...
I forgot about this review.
Would anybody mind if one of these days we tried doing this on Google Hangouts instead of YouTube?
Could try.
Don't have a problem.
Huh?
I wouldn't care.
Never used it.
I haven't either, but this is, you know, technically if somebody...
My niece
I think if someone went to my live show right now, it's just on. It's just not listed. So unless people...
Where you go, we will follow.
So anybody super savvy could be crashing the party, but hey, I give credit to smart people.
Jesse. Jesse.
Alright, so I had mentioned I am a little bit nervous because these live reviews are different than doing the news. The news, I'm just kind of reading what I see. Here I'm trying to... The reason I'm doing the live review is to give it more personality than when I used to be just too buttoned up and too, you know, clinical. I want to still be the same Sean Cole, but I just want to have a little more fun and have it be just a little more personal. That's why I like doing the live. I also like doing it with you guys because you're my second set of eyes. So at the end, if, you know, there's something you're like, I can't believe you didn't even mention or talk about this. You know, I want to hear those questions because I'll somehow edit them back into the review for the edited version. So, I need to grab my remote, and I think I'm good to go. You guys have any questions?
How heavy is the box?
I'm sorry?
How heavy is the box?
60 pounds. It's 55 pounds for the actual unit. Like, what you have to mount on your rig is 55 pounds. Shipping in the box was 62 pounds.
What are we reviewing?
The Next Level Racing Motion Platform V3.
Got it.
It's the motion sim that I've been running for a month now.
I
ran my 24-hour race in it. I've done our SRS races in it. I did last night's truck race in it. So it hasn't just been in testing, but I put it through my most important moments and conditions.
Ugh.
Let's see. I need to change the window so I can see the chat. Yeah, Michael, it was a fun race last night.
You guys did great, Sean. What a great run.
Thank you. Thank you. I was pretty proud. If it had gone longer, I think it would have played into my hands.
I think so, too.
I was being really gentle on the truck. Amazingly gentle for me, because I'm so erratic.
That leader, what was his name? Mike? Wow, wow, he could run.
Yeah, he was actually pulling away a little bit, but I still wasn't pushing too hard. So I was just
his lap times were amazing.
Okay.
He was down in the 54s, I think.
Next week's going to be really cool.
Oh boy. It's a road track, isn't it?
Yeah, Watkins Glen.
All right, I won't qualify, so I start in the back.
Okay. All right, I think I'm ready. It looks a little dark on my camera, but I don't think it actually is. Let me just go look at my camera real quick, and then we're going to get going here. Because at 1 o'clock, we got practice for anybody who's running in the, or considering running with the endurance team. Or anyone who wants to play with us, even if you're not going to be on the team. Everyone's welcome.
There he is. There he is. I got you. Just in time. I had to download Chrome.
Now, this thing is just a dim display. It has to be right. It's okay. Alright, I'm going to go with it. Oh. I still haven't gotten 100% comfortable with the new camera. It doesn't happen overnight. Alright. I am more nervous doing this than I am starting a race. Except for the 24. Test, test, test. Alright, sorry for the delay. Well, actually, this is shorter. Hey, wait, what am I talking? It's only 11:02. You guys were just here for the pregame show. Okay, so, Billy Strange probably isn't here. I think he's working here today. Billy and I had talked about what I eventually am going to transfer into. I'm just giving you guys a little background. What the hell? Eventually, I might one day try producing the whole show on the fly. Like, okay, I'm operating the mouse, I'm bringing up footage, I'm doing things simultaneous to doing the review. I don't know if I'm mentally capable of doing it, so that might be a super train wreck. This one is just like the last one. You guys aren't going to see any B-roll, but if you watch the difference between the live and the edited last time, there was a shit ton of B-roll. So, Michael Jeffries has the Next Level GT Ultimate and is thinking about the motion platform here. Well, hopefully I will answer every question that you might have. So, all right, I guess it's time to go. I'm filibustering. I'd like to thank Franco for that badass banner. Finished off the set perfectly. All right, here we go.
Are you guys live?
We're about to be.
What you doing?
We're about to film the live review of the Next Level Racing Motion Simulator Platform V3.
Oh, I was home early for Wreckfest.
Wreckfest is normally at 1, but I think today we're actually running iRacing preparing for the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Oh.
Sorry to disappoint on that level.
So I took the day off for nothing?
I'm very sorry. I owe you one.
Eat your Ovaltine.
All right, we ready?
Make her dig.
I just sent out the notification, so we might get a few more people who jump in, which might mean that I have to go back and forth. Who cares? Let's go. All right, let me start the camera. Where did I put my remote? Here it is. I'm kidding. All right, here we go.
Oh my god.
Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. This is The Sim Pit. I'm your host, Sean Cole, but the real star of today's show is the Next Level Racing Motion Simulator Platform V3. This is the 3rd generation of this motion platform. And this, when you think of motion, this is a very unique motion platform. And we're going to get to some of those features that make it unique in a moment. But what you're looking at is a 62-pound box of motion that's going to work on the GT Ultimate Next Level Racing Sim or their flight chassis, or they make an adapter kit that means it'll work on the R seat. What do you know? I have an R seat. It'll also work on a play seat with a different adapter. Those adapters are $200 each, and the motion sim itself, believe it or not, is only $3,000. Now, $3,000, how does Sean say only when it comes to $3,000? Well, $3,000 is very cheap when you consider a full motion seat mover style motion platform. When I say seat mover, there are a few different ways of doing motion. You've got your full rig motion, where it moves the entire thing. Pedals, seat, wheel, everything moves as one unit. The other option, which is also very common, you think of a CXC simulation, you think of a sim experience, they're called seat movers, or at least that's what I call them. And it moves the seat independent of the rest of the rig, meaning the pedals and the wheel deck are all fixed in location. So there are differences, and there are pros and cons to each one, and we'll talk about that just a little bit more when we get further into the show. What can I tell you the main details of this rig, though? I didn't mention that it's smaller, and I did mention that it's affordable. I think in my pros and cons I mentioned smaller anyway. It's okay. Just bear with me. Now, the Motion Simulator Platform V3, it operates on just one USB and one plug into the wall. It works on 110 through 240 volt, and it draws 350 watts. So it is an extra power support. So it is an extra power drain on your power supply of the room that you have your simulator in. Can you guys hear that fan? Oh, I probably have to wait 20 seconds. Can you guys hear that fan? Okay. It runs on an electromagnetic type motor that completely locks out when not moving, and it'll accommodate a driver up to 130 kilograms or 285 pounds. It's compatible with almost all of our favorite sims, and it's made in Europe. Okay. Let me scroll down. And as I mentioned, this is intended, and as I mentioned, this is built by Next Level Racing, and it will fit directly onto, I mean, it's built to go onto the GT Ultimate or the Flight Sim chassis. As I mentioned, the other option are the play seat and R seat with the adapters, but if you think about it, this is actually the ultimate DIY simulator kit. It's very small, it's very compact, and it is affordable. It also doesn't increase the overall footprint one bit. This whole thing fits directly under the seat. Now, it does change dimensions slightly, and I'll cover that when we get to that aspect of the show. Okay. Now, I had mentioned the difference between types of simulation, whether it's a full rig moving or a seat mover. When I think of a full rig, on the high end, you have something like the Cruden, $250,000, giant 6 actuator holding the whole rig up into the air. And it has its pros and its cons. It is very nice to have everything moving as one unit, because if you think when you're in a race car, you're strapped in, and the seat and the wheel, that's the dimension of the car. In a seat mover, those dimensions are always changing. The other thing is, despite a track being very bumpy, the bumpiness is the seat, the pedals, everything. When you have the distraction of bumps while driving, it is all at least happening together. In a seat mover, that bumpiness is moving the chair, but but not your feet. Your feet are now being moved by the chair as they try to operate the pedals. So the advantage to the full platform moving sim is that you have that unison, everything moves together. The downside, however, is when you move everything together, it takes a lot longer and a lot more movement to get the feeling of movement compared to how quickly a seat mover moves. The other thing is, despite that dimension between the seat and the wheel moving, it also increases that feeling of G-forces to an extent, and that is the point of a motion simulator. Okay. The Next Level Racing Motion Simulator Platform V3 also has VR integration. It uses VR Headway, which uses advanced mathematic formulas to calculate necessary compensation, and it applies it to the VR headset at runtime, meaning the most authentic and immersive simulation experience. Now, I didn't get a chance to test it with VR because I didn't have a VR unit here, and I think for most sim racers, their primary focus is, how does it work? Maybe when I get a VR unit, we'll do a secondary test on this thing just in VR and test that on its own merits, because it is going to completely change the way the sim drives. Now, what's included in the box? The motion platform itself, a USB cable, an extra long power cable, side rails. Now I also acquired the R-Seat adapter, again for $200, and it replaces the stock side rails, which actually looked very cool. So I like the original ones better than the upgraded ones, but it did allow the use on my R-Seat. Okay, let me scroll down. Any questions so far, you guys? Alright, I need... So before we get down to how this thing actually operates, let's talk about what it looks like, at least when you pull it out of the box. Now, I just have the box here because it's mounted on my rig. I wasn't pulling that thing off my rig to put it up here on the table. I have great photos, great video of you seeing it up close, but I just have the box here. It is 55 pounds, so it is rather heavy, and if you have a rig, a DIY rig in particular, it's going to have to accommodate an extra 55 pounds of weight. Now, to give you an idea of the overall dimensions, and this would change depending on where and how you're using it, but for my installation, it ended up being about 15 inches front to back, 18 inches left to right, and about 10 inches up to down, and about 10 inches up and down to the point where it mounts to the seat. If you're in a DIY scenario, you're going to need those same seat mount locations on the side, the 4 points on the side, just like an R-Seat, just like mini play seats, just like a lot of driving seats out there, but it is a particular mounting location. Now, how does this crazy thing work? It's a full motion platform, and it's only this big. How does it do it? It's got two levers, one on each side in front of the seat. Along with that, it has a tension spring that is going to offer resistance and retraction and smooth out the movements. Each of these levers is attached to the front of the seat on each side, a left and a right. In addition to that, you have a pivot point directly underneath the seat that allows the seat to swing left and right, front to back, or any direction in between. Now, when those levers operate, they move up and down. If the right lever goes up, it's going to turn the seat to the left-hand side. If it comes down and the left one starts to come up, it's going to go to center, it's going to cross over, and it's going to tilt the other direction. Same thing on the front and back, but they work in unison. Instead of left and right operating like this, when they both come up, it's going to tilt the seat back. When they both retract, it's going to bring it back to center, and then under braking, it's going to tilt forward again. And then you have the ability to do any of the movements in conjunction with the other, and that's how you get the full effect of all of the different directions of the car's forces. I think I said all that right. Yep. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to read through the installation step by step because I have footage from when we did that live. So let me just read this along. Well, I'm going to do a little lead in, and we're moving right through this. All right. So now it gets down to the fun part, and that's installing it on the rig, which I gotta tell you, I'll admit, I was a little afraid. 55 pounds, I'm all alone, how am I gonna put it on the rig? Now first I have to take a few things off of my R seat, because that's the variation that I'm doing. So I took the seat off the rig. I took the R seat rails off the rig. I then installed the Next Level Racing side rails in their place, and then somehow tried to balance the 55-pound beast while installing it onto the side rails. I probably should have put the side rails on first and then put that down on my rig, but I wanted to make sure everything lined up on the R seat. All I had to do was put a box or a pillow or something to support it, and I was able to get it in place, bolt it into the side rails, and then reinstall my seat onto the supplied R seat adapters. I then plugged in the power, plugged in the USB, downloaded their software, and it immediately updated the software, updated the firmware, and I didn't have to do much of anything, and the next thing you know, we were up and running. Alright, actually, that's my transition. Update the software, update the firmware, which was all fairly automated, and the next thing you knew, we were up and running. Now, before we get down to driving and dealing with the user interface or the software that comes with the Next Level Racing Motion Simulator Platform V3, I want to mention one thing. In doing this, it did raise the seat height on my R seat by 4 inches. If you add this or accommodate this into a DIY rig, you're going to need to look at the adapter you're using. You're going to look at their diagrams to figure out exactly how much it's going to change your seating position. But in my case, I'm dealing with a fixed rig. This is a rig made out of metal. I can't redo anything. I actually had to make an adapter to go on my pedals and raise the pedals up an additional 4 inches. So that took a little bit of ingenuity, or I'd completely changed the geometry of the already 2 upright R-Seat RS1. I love that rig, but if there's one area that I would improve it, I would probably flatten it out and recline it a little bit more. This didn't help in that area until I adapted my pedals and got them back to the same geometry it had stock. On the wheel deck, I had to extend that wheel deck all the way up as high as the R-Seat would allow, and in some cases, it was still going to leave the wheel lower and maybe even further away at this point than it used to be. I used a couple of sticks of aluminum 80-20 profile, which not everybody has around, but I could have used wood to do the same thing, and I made a little extra adapter that raised it an additional inch. In the end, I got the wheel exactly where I wanted, but it did take some working. 4 inches is a big gap to fill, and it's a big difference, and you might want to consider that if you're considering this onto your existing rig or any DIY build. Oh, I also had to raise my monitors. I can just say that and snip it into there, because that's going to be off camera for the most, or I can make that off camera. In addition to the wheel, the pedals, anything else that really is in a fixed location that you depend on, like my monitors also needed to be raised 4 inches. So again, take that into consideration before you get going on a project like this. I didn't need that tail because it's being spliced in, but that's okay. Any questions so far, you guys? Alright, I'm going to actually have time to eat lunch before we practice. Let me just check one thing real quick. Okay. Whoops. Stream still looks good. Audio looks good. Alright. Still recording. Those might be visible, but I don't care. Okay. Now, when it comes to a motion simulator, this is not the kind of product that you can just assume you just turn it on and everything works automatically. It is the next level of equipment, and it does require you to deal with the user interface to make it operate. But I will say, the next level motion platform software is some of the easiest software that I've ever dealt with. It's very intuitive, it's very laid out, it's laid out in a very nice way that allows you to navigate it easily and figure out the settings without having to be a genius. The software has pre-built profiles with starting points for just about every game under the sun. Almost every sim. Almost every sim and flight sim, and even a few roller coasters and other things thrown in. Each profile can be tuned to get the settings exactly right for each sim that you're using it on. The forces that are tailorable or adjustable are the overall intensity, bumps, roll left to right, heave up and down, surge front to back, and sway. You can also adjust the weight transfer bias, rev limiter threshold, and wheel lock intensity. Hold on, Whoops. Oh, shit, what did I do? Shit. I hope we're still okay here. I grabbed the wrong keyboard. Bear with me 1 second, you guys, sorry. Okay, sorry. So it only took me a few minutes to really get comfortable with the software. Like I said, they had the starter profiles for all of them, and you could then tailor the settings. And you could even clone those profiles in order to start a second setting. So for example, you do a lot of oval racing, you want your oval settings. You do a lot of road racing, you want your road settings. You could do that for each and every sim. It all uses cool pictures, it's quick, it's easy, and it shouldn't even scare off anybody, even if you're only medium level computer tech level. So at this point, you know all the details about it. I mean, we don't know all the inner workings inside of it. We just know how it works and what it does and how it feels. You know what it costs. You know what it takes to get it on the rig and get it up and running. So what's it like when you get on track? Now, there are a lot of different philosophies when it comes to motion sims. There's a lot of opinions when it comes to motion sims, and I'll say, it's not for everybody. But when you first get in, I'll tell you, it's a distraction. At first, it's so different from what you're accustomed to that it's going to take a learning curve. It is fun right out of the gate, no doubt about it. The minute you get in, you're like, oh wow, my rig is moving and this is cool. But at the same time, everything's moving. Your level of perfection goes down. For me, I immediately had to start turning down the settings. I had to figure out, and this is the great thing about it, you could really dial in the settings that you wanted. So I immediately went to work and thought, okay, how much does the car really dive when I hit on the brake? And I'd make that adjustment. It was very easy to find it and just dial it down with the little slider. And then I would think, okay, when I'm going left to right through a chicane, how much feeling do I want out of it? How much is realistic to me? And I spent a long time actually getting it dialed in, and long isn't even the right word. I spent the amount of time it took, it wasn't a long time, in order to get them dialed in just right. And at that point, it really started to do something that I've really never even felt. Whenever I've done a motion simulator, let's face it, it's at a trade show, or it's just at a visit to one of the factories and trying it out. You're using their settings. They always have a shock and awe approach when it comes to motion. My philosophy on motion is less is more. You want it to do exactly what your brain thinks. I say it all the time when it comes to force feedback, and the same is true about motion. What you perceive is what's right. How much feel you think, how much movement. The car you're driving might be different than another car. I mean, obviously, like a Baja truck is going to do this much rock and roll through a left-right. On the flip side, a Formula 1 car might only be like this. The other is, how much feeling do you want for G-forces versus the transfer of weight, so to speak, and the tilt of the car. You got to balance all these. So I did some singling things out. I'd make one adjustment to the motion the same way I would do with building a setup for a car. That way my brain could process exactly. Like, I don't have to think about this when I'm adjusting this, if that makes any sense. Once I got it dialed in, it started to do some very cool things for me. First of all, just the motion is cool. It's like, well, I'll get to that in my closing thoughts, but it is adding another layer of immersion to sim racing. It's giving you another level of effect, and it's giving you another level of control, but it does come at a price, and it does come at the whole movement. Movement is taking you away from perfection. I'm going to get back to that in my closing thoughts as well. Now, when you're going into the corner and you turn right, your body's thrown left. Even if you're belted in, your body is being squeezed left. The simulator does the same thing. Now, in a real car, when you're going around a corner, that G-force is sustained from the moment you enter the corner till the moment that you are literally releasing the wheel and going straight again. In a motion sim, they can only give you that sensation once, and then it almost needs to relax that sensation, or it leaves you hanging out there, is the way I like to talk about it. When it leaves you hanging out there, it feels weird. This retracted very nicely. It was smooth. It wasn't jittery. The other thing is, when you get into wheel lockup, this was the best brake lockup sensation that I've ever gotten from any device, whether it be a shaker pedal on a pedal, whether it be force feedback in a wheel, whether it be a butt kicker screaming at full volume. The best anti-lock brake I've ever felt, or warning to me, was on this. And you would be under braking and you'd get a jitter, and you could immediately release the brake to the point of perfect braking. It actually helped me on braking distances once I got used to the movement on the pedal. And I don't know if you ever get quite used to the movement on the pedal. It was fun. It was solid. It was faster than I expected. It was quieter than I expected. It was a distraction still. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is there. It is moving you, and that is different than a static rig. I can't say anything about it. The other thing is, racing is about weight transfer. When you think you're going into a corner and you get on the brakes and you load up the front end of the car, heavy, and then you turn in and you throw the weight to the other side, and you're loading that wheel that's now taking so much more weight of the car. The rate in which you do that affects how much all the wheels work together. A motion sim actually gives you the ability not so much to know exactly what the car is doing, as much as to know when you're overdoing it. Because if you're ever driving and you go into a corner and you left, right, and you feel that thing just throw you, you probably attacked the corner wrong. You need to smooth out. You need to smooth your braking so that you don't get the chatter. You need to smooth out the acceleration so you don't get just thrown out or get that kicking sensation when the rear end steps out. There are cues that do help you out, but it comes at a price that we're going to talk about again in my bottom line or final thoughts. I will say, it was really enjoyable. The ability to have a motion sim in the same footprint as a standard rig. The RC is not a giant rig. My rig is 4 inches taller, and that is the only difference between the before and after of using this, and that is pretty big compared to other seat movers available. So, I think, other than what I would say in my final thoughts, I think I've given you all the things. I mean, it does what you expect. It is not as big a motion as a sim experience or a CXC. But to me, that might not be necessarily a bad thing either, because sometimes less is more. It comes down to the tuning. And that was the other critical aspect of driving, taking the time to tune it. If you watch some of the driving I did, there's very, very little left to right movement compared to stock configuration. There's a fair amount of frontward movement because it gave me a good sensation of that very important braking transfer of energy, which I liked. So that pretty much summarizes the way it played out while driving. It also came back to how easy that UI, that user interface, how easy it was to jump in there and make settings. There's a perfect diagram telling you what each direction or force is. It's very easy to move the slider. It's very easy to jump back into the game and feel the effect and be able to get it to where you have it just right. So that gives you all of my thoughts about the Next Level Racing Motion Simulator Platform V3. If it wasn't clear just from my description and driving, let me break it down with the good, the not so good, and then we're going to finish with the bottom line. Alright. Ooh, I was getting out of breath and out of wind. And, hey, Billy Strange. When I'm all done, I'm going to open it up to just questions, make sure I covered everything. Also, like Lewis, you mentioned you have one. I'd like to know your thoughts and how it compares to what I said. And we're almost to that point. We have the good, the not so good, the bottom line, and then we're done. And then I can eat lunch and then we can practice. I'm going to do that whole intro into the good. So I think I pretty much told you every angle of the driving aspect of it. And I know it did come down to tuning it and getting it just right, but that was when it was the sweetest point. But in case it wasn't clear, in case you don't know my feelings or how how it felt to me while I was driving, let me break it down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line. Starting off with the good, of course, which is for a motion platform, this is very affordable. It's a compact design. Did not make my rig bigger. Easy to use software. So much fun. Quiet for a motion sim. The best brake lockup feeling I've ever had. Great rev limiter feeling. Great sensation of loss of traction. Ability to recline or adjust the center point. Seat is locked in position and will not move when you push or sit in it. 285-pound weight limit. And it really is a baby big boy sim for only $3,000. I don't think I elaborated enough about the step-out feeling, which is very similar to the... I can cover it in the bottom line, which is maybe the most important part anyway. Okay. Yeah, shout out to you, Joa. Joa is dealing with the illness. Awesome. Thank you, Lewis. Yeah, I was actually very blown away about that. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. And now on to the bottom line. Well, it is bumpy and jumpy, and some people will find it distracting. It takes you down a level on perfection. Must retrain pedal operation. Draws extra power. And raises everything 4 inches. That's all I have. I really don't have anything bad to say. Oh, I did have one more. I have to type it in or I'll forget. Bear with me, you guys. Somehow added or made apparent a little... Max! I'm filming. Added a little flex to my seat. I don't know how that's possible, but it sure did. Or it made it more apparent. Like if I push on the side of my seat or sit, I can feel it. Sorry to get in your face here.
Sean, how much power does that unit take?
350 watts.
Thank you.
I said it at the beginning, by the way. I know I did that.
I probably missed it. I'm sorry.
No. I want you guys. Dude, you guys. It's so awesome having you guys be able to ask questions. Because if I hadn't said that, I'd be like, oh, let me add that real quick.
Yeah, we're down on a different channel talking, so we're not disturbing you.
Okay, I was wondering how you guys were so perfectly silent. That's awesome. Thank you guys. You guys are so cool. You guys, it's so cool doing this.
No worries, buddy. No worries.
Even though I get super nervous. I'm so...
Calm down.
All right.
Take the dog for a walk.
I think I did say it, but just added a little flex to my seat. Okay, now on to the good stuff. The bottom line, and then we're done.
All right, let's go.
All right, thank you, bud. And now on to the bottom line, and I do have a lot to say when it comes to my final thoughts on using a motion platform, because there are so many different ways to look at it. You first have to start with that it does take some getting used to. This is, as I used several times in the review, you heard me say the word distraction. And I don't want to make it like that's a terrible negative thing. It's just such an extreme change from a static rig to any kind of motion whatsoever that you have to first get over that distraction. You have to absorb this new input that you're dealing with in order to refocus your energy on what you've always known. Force feedback in the wheel and whatever kind of pedals that you use. You also have to get over or deal with, and for some people it'll work and for some people it won't, the whole realism factor. Like, is it really... No, it can't give you G-forces. If you expect a motion sim to give you G-forces, it's impossible. You're not moving quick enough. Nothing's happening. You're just being tilted around. It is giving you this sensation of certain forces. It's giving you a lot of the car's movement as forces, not the actual G-forces. Is that seat of the pants driving? There's some of it in there, but it is the G-forces that play on your inner ear that is that true mechanism when it comes to talking about driving by the seat of your pants. You don't drive by the seat of your pants with force feedback. You react to forces that you've been trained by your brain to understand. The same thing's going on with the motion simulator, motion platform. It's not for everybody. I can tell you right now, an Alien, a Mitchie Hoyer type, a Rudy Van Buren type, an Atzi Kirchhoff, I can't imagine they're going to be huge fans of motion because I don't think the cues are making up for the accuracy of that single screen G29 simple pedals that are the exact same distance every single time. They're not worried about realism. They're worried about perfection. For me, my sim rig is a symphony. When it's just a wheel on a desk and a monitor, there's nothing wrong about that. I love the sound of a good guitar. But when you add the drums or a good rig to that equation, the band just got a lot better. When you add triple screens or VR, some enhanced visuals to go along with that, you just added the piano or the organ or synthesizer to the band. When you add force feedback on a high level, you just added a horn section. It's a symphony, and every time you add another component to the band, it takes the pressure off the other instruments. They don't have to play every single role. So in the case of my rig, I need to get butt kickers running on SimVibe because it would be another piece of the band. It would be that force feedback that now I don't need my force feedback to give me anything in terms of braking effect. I'm depending on this. I don't need my butt kickers to overly do brake effect because I can let them focus on road noise. So it becomes a piece or a member of the band. It's a perfect symphony. It's a perfect addition. But you know what? The Police were a 3-man band and they were one of the best of all time. I also have to admit, when doing this review, I really had to get over some of my skepticism. I come from lots of hours on a CXE simulator. I know what a $50,000 simulator looks like, feels like, and drives like. I'm thinking, what's this $3,000? It kind of reminds me of the Wiper Motor DIY motion platforms, and I'm like, oh, it's got to be rickety, it's got to be noisy, it's got to break. Been driving it for over a month. Did a 24-hour race. Break? No, it's shown no signs of wear or fatigue or anything that makes me doubt its capabilities. It's been smoother and faster than I ever would have imagined, and it is maybe the quietest motion simulator I've ever driven on. Alright, almost done. Almost done, you guys. Yes, exactly, Grant. It's only distracting until you get used to the motion. Okay. Then it comes down to some of the driving aspects, some of the cues that you do get. Like I said, this did make my braking better. When I was in that 24-hour race, every time I went a little too hot on the brakes, I immediately got a sensation from this. I felt it before the wheel, and I was able to react and save the tires and get shorter, better braking zones. The same thing on the weight transfer, like I mentioned. When you're throwing the car around, this thing's telling you you're throwing it too much. Smooth it out. When you start to come around a corner and step out, just like that ABS sensation, you get a little jitter. Just a little bit of jitter, just enough to know, hey, you're overdoing the throttle on exit. You got the wheel too turned, too much for that much throttle. Take it easy, and it really helps tell you all about it. It's fun. It's informative, and it's one of those things, I don't know if you guys remember it, many years ago when I first tried a butt kicker, one of my famous quotes was, if you turn this thing off, you'd be like, who turned off my sim? Same thing. You get motion, you get dialed into the motion, you get used to those sensations, it's kind of hard to turn it off and feel like your sim is still doing the same job. And then the last thing is an area that I really have to applaud Next Level on what they've done. They have taken something that is normally fairly complicated. Every piece of software I think I've ever used when it came to a motion platform was difficult to use. It was even scary for moderate tech level people. This was easy. It took care of most of the hard work on its own, and it wasn't hard to make setting changes. It wasn't intimidating, and I want to applaud them because that's not easy, and somehow they did it, and all other companies should take a look at their UI because they really did take something complicated and make it easy. So in the end, I'm going to tell you, this thing's fun. There is no way it's coming off my rig. I thought for a long time that maybe I would only use motion sims when it came to like playing around. But in reality, I ran that 24-hour race. In reality, I ran last night's Pocono race against the guys. I ran the SRS series races in motion. And once I got used to it, I was able to match my lap times 1-to-1. But it really added to the enjoyment. It added to the band. It made the symphony that much better. So thank you, Next Level Racing, for sending this in. It was a pleasure reviewing this product. And I hope I've told you everything that you want to know about it. This is The Sim Pit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track. I think I got it all, you guys. Any questions? All right.
Hey, Sean, when you did the not so good, you said the bottom line instead of not so good. Just FYI.
Okay, thank you. Here, hold on one second. No one go anywhere. Just hold that thought. And now on to the not so good. And the first one is, it is bumpy and jumpy. It's going to move you around. It's going to be a little bit of a distraction. At first. Thank you. Anything else, you guys? Any questions? Lewis, I don't know. I think it would, depending on how much force feedback you really wanted. Maybe in Jesse's hands it wouldn't be advisable. And in my hands, it probably would be fine. Thank you, Grant. Chris, it was the quietest sim I've ever driven. Motion sim. By far. I could run this at night while my brother is true. Police. I was such a... The police. I could pull out all police and listen to it all day and I'd be happy. Yes. Thank you, Franco, for the banner. It made the set perfect. Anything else? Should I shut down the stream? I have to prep for the next stream. And eat lunch. Alright. Because half of us are here and half of us there. Chris, David, Eric, any of you guys have a question? Then I'll probably stop the feed. Let me check with these guys.
For no-fly zones in case something like that happens to you.
You guys have any questions?
By Jesse, there's probably a lot of restrictions up there in Massachusetts, or the Vineyard.
Hey, real quick, you guys have any questions or anything that I didn't answer?
No. Is there a weight limit on it?
How much power?
280.
We covered the power. What was that, Jesse?
I said, is there a weight limit on it?
285.
Yeah,
285. Okay.
Which is actually pretty good for a motion sim. Like most of the CXEs, they usually say like 250, I think. Any other questions? Devin, did you have one?
I don't think so. You talked about it moving like independent of the pedals and stuff. That was my only thing.
Yeah, and that is a distraction. It takes some getting used to. When I got everything dialed in, though, it wasn't as big a deal because I'm not doing the kind of same movement that CXE or Sim Experience would want you to do. You know, they want you to do a ton. You know,
but you're just more looking for the cues for when you lose traction and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, and then it became badass.
Yeah, that does seem like it could be great. Like, it's just like any tool. You need to learn how to use it and what information it's going to give you.
Yep. And get it all dialed in. All right, I'm going to check in. Anything else?
I know it's a little late for that, but yeah, how did you know, because this isn't going to be aired out, or maybe this one question won't be aired out. Say the AccuForce Sim Experience software, how many adjustments there are, and it's kind of like a little overwhelming even for someone that's can do something in depth like that.
Yes.
How were the settings for this as far as the software goes?
It was the easiest software I've ever used. For a motion sim.
No, it sounds like a pretty attractive piece of equipment, I gotta say.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you can't do things like you could with the Sim Experience software, like, you know, dial in bumps specifically, you know, like, you know, or road noise specifically. But they kept it simple so that, like, John Hill could use this thing.
Yeah, no, I'm a little tempted to buy it.
It's pretty cool. The
only thing that kind of stops me from buying it is knowing that it's like 3 years old and there's potentially a new one somewhere around the corner.
Right. Knowing them, I doubt that's the case because I had their wheel stand here, and I got a call from Hess, the owner, and he was like, "Hey, don't review that. We have a new one."
Okay.
And he asked me to, like, literally just throw that one away.
Wow.
So, yeah, if they had a new one, I don't think they'd do that from what I've seen from them. But, I mean, I can't guarantee it, of course.
Especially since they just sent it to you, I don't foresee them having one in the background being built.
I agree. And it is the third version. Seems like 3 is the charm in sim racing.
So here's a totally off the thought question here. I'm wondering if you could mount an 80-20 rig to it instead of a seat.
Yes, you would still need to come up with some way to mount your seat. But anybody...
Well, if it was mounted to an 80-20 rig and you mounted the rig to that, like dead center of the rig?
It'll go on an 80-20 rig, no problem. The hardest part will always be getting whatever seat you have onto one of their mounts or building your own mount for the seat onto the motion platform.
I think
No, what I'm saying is bolt the 80-20 rig to where the seat bolts to.
so that the pedals and the seat and the wheel all move. I wondered about that.
That would be way too much for that because it's
too
only
much weight.
285-pound weight limit. So basically, and that's you sitting in a seat, and then the mechanical weight, or it's not really a mechanical advantage, but it's more of a weight because the lever effect maybe.
The other thing is you need a lot more movement to get the same sensation out of that arrangement.
It would probably work for someone like me. Like, I'm 130 pounds soaking wet, but a grown-ass man, you know? Maybe not so much.
Right.
A lot of the like simulations you see that are like the 3-axis or 3DOF, it will be like a really tiny, skinny guy with like a really tiny frame on it, and it's like a, you know, less than a Fanatec wheel. It's
Right.
usually not even a Thrustmaster; it's a Logitech.
Yeah. They are all heavily hit by any additional weight. You know, especially depending on where you put it. The problem with putting weight on the front is its pivot point is based on the shape of a human body sitting on top of the chair. And if you put a ton of weight out front, it completely changes that pivot point.
So you could probably get away with something like that, but you would have to weight it so that your center of balance is still right over the middle.
I don't. If I wanted to move the whole rig, I'd get a D-box.
Yeah.
I think it would be way too much of an investment to try it to realize no, it's not going to
Yeah.
work.
And I prefer this to a D-box, to be honest with you.
Really?
Like you said, Jesse,
Wow.
it'd probably come down to the leverage. It wouldn't be able to move that much because of the leverage of it.
Yeah.
Here's why. I got really used to seat movers, and with this one dialed down, it's so twitchy that it gives you such instant feedback. And the minute, I don't care if you're talking about the Cruden, this gives you better driving sensation than a Cruden. And I don't mean, if you were going to give me a Cruden at $250,000, I'll make room and put it in my house. But this is going to give you better feedback for racing. I do believe that.
So, like, this would be better, in your opinion,
What's their
than...
price point, about 13?
I'm sorry?
What's their price point, about 13?
On this, $3,000.
Oh.
So you
13
so
already
this-
have one, Doug.
What was
What
that,
was
Devin?
that, Devin? I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, you're okay. This would be you're saying, so this would be better than like sim racing garages. You would use this over that.
He has a sim experience, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, with the 4 pistons.
Oh wait,
a D-box?
no, he has
Yeah,
a
I think
D-box.
he has a
D-box,
but
yeah.
it's on the sim experience.
I thought he put a D-box on it.
He did.
I personally, now I have, from what I've felt, yes, but see, I've never been given a D-box to dial it in myself.
Right.
So, and I use that word shock and awe on purpose, because if you ever go to a trade show and drive in someone's motion sim, these guys are all shock and awe. They think this is true of Chris, this is true of Bernie, of Robert, this is true of Cruden. They all, like, just want to give you too much. And it's like, hey, tone that down to, like, a drivable level. Like, why are you making it so it pulls my feet off the pedals? And even on a D-box when they're turned up, well, it's jumping around enough to pull your feet off the pedals. So, for me, to me, again, less is very much more.
Okay. So something like ideally then, it might be better to go with, let's say, like this kind of motion sim and then a couple of butt kickers, like some under your pedals and some under your ass, and away you go, as opposed to the full D-Box setup.
Yeah, it's also one of those, if you have the means, sure. What would I really recommend? I probably should have said this. Don't open the genie's bottle. There's a side of me that is like, look, I don't want people to think they need a direct drive wheel. I don't want them to think they need a $3,000 motion platform, because Mitchie's going to kick all your asses all day. All of our asses, I mean. And he has a G29 and a single monitor. So it's like, well, wait, which version do you want? If you go down this path, it's $3,000. It's not a necessity. It's a luxury.
Luxury, yeah.
Yes, that braking feedback is cool. Do I need it? No, I'll use an audio cue instead. So, no, it's not. I mean, at $3,000, it's the most attractive, and maybe that's why I didn't say, hey, don't do it. But, yeah, I don't know if, I'm not taking it off my rig, but at the same time, I don't know if I necessarily advocate motion for everyone's use. It's a lot of money. If somebody's still on a Logitech pedals and they bought this, I'd be like, are you kidding me? So,
yeah, you know what? I make good money, and it is a large investment. Even my triple screen monitors I only spent $2,000 on, and I actually the most I've spent is $1,500 or so on a piece of equipment for my sim, and I don't actually know if it would make me a better sim racer, but I think that if you want to rely on little bumps and stuff, maybe the Sim Vibe could be a good alternative,
right?
For that. But I also think about, what do you see the best guys on? And it's usually they're not on a D-Box or a motion simulator. So I just keep that in mind too, because you've got to be realistic with your expectations.
Yeah.
I actually thought VR was going to help me out a lot. I dropped $900 or $800 on the Vive Pro. And, I tried it out. I got to be honest, I didn't use it for as long as you use the seat, but I was on a track I knew very well, and I couldn't match my best time, so.
Right. See, that was the proof was in the pudding. When I ran that 24 and that thing was actually turned on for all my sessions, that was sort of the clincher for me. Like when I needed my final... okay, I can be as positive as I think I am about this, but, I don't think I lost a tenth of time, and I don't think I made a single mistake because of the motion, and it did make it more fun. It didn't wear me out because I have it turned down. If I had gone to CXE, I couldn't do 2 hours in a CXE. No way. Ask Bucho, he ran one. Ask him if he could do a 2-hour stint in the CXE sim. Not a chance.
Those core muscles, though, Sean.
I know, and I need to work on them, so that's good. Alright, anything else, you guys?
That's it for me.
Yeah, nothing I could think of.
Okay, here's one other question.
Okay.
Does it come... Okay, you know how some seats, you mount them on the sides, and you usually use a special pair of brackets?
Yes.
Does this come with an adapter for seats like that?
So, I have not confirmed that mine are the... Because there are racing seats that have the 4 holes, two on each side. I'm assuming, I really hope, these are the standard size, because that's the same type of seat that CXE used, right? So I hope the R seat is that configuration, but I don't know if it is. I don't know if the playseat is that configuration on theirs because they have an adapter for a playseat also. But yes, I believe, I mean, so that's exactly what it was built for, was the 2 on each side, Jesse.
So Spatial wants to know, do you like it for $3,000 worth?
Oh, Tim, it is so hard. I mean, I don't make much money. So, like, I am saving for a bicycle that I want to ride. And when I say saving, I mean, like, I have to put a little bit of money away each month to acquire enough money to buy a bicycle. Now, be that it is a $2,000 bike, maybe $3,000. But, money is a very important thing to me, and I don't take it lightly. So, no. Because if I didn't do this for a living, I can guarantee you that I would either have a Fanatic or a Thrustmaster wheel. I would have Fanatic V3 pedals. I'd have a Deathmobile wood rig.
There it is.
And I would probably have triple screens because I think that's essential now. That's it. That's it. Direct drive, no. Carbon, no. Fancy rig, no. Motion, forget it. VR, no. Sound system, no. Give me a good pair of headphones. So if it was just me and I didn't do this for a show, my attitude is a lot different than, this is awesome. I know a lot of people who make a lot more money than I do, and $3,000, sure, it's a lot of money, but it's just $3,000. To me, $3,000 is precious, and no. But if I were wealthy, sure, in a minute, heartbeat, no problem. I'd buy a Ferrari too. I don't know if that actually answers your question. It's just very hard to answer a question like that.
To me, I'm a little different. I think that if I'm going to spend $300, because you've got to really spend at least $300, and we're saying the G920 is the least amount of wheel you could possibly use. I know they make wheels for less, but we're just going to say that. So
Yeah.
if I'm going to spend $300 and I can spend $1,200 and get an OSW, like, is an OSW wheel 4 times better as a Logitech? I would say yes.
I would say
But
yes
that's
on
me.
longevity, but Logitechs don't always
What?
break.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
The OSW is not $300. What kind of wheel are you gonna? What kind of
Don't-
rim?
don't worry.
4
you gonna
times
put
as
on?
much.
I'm saying the OSW is 4 times as much as a Logitech.
Awesome, Tim. Yeah, that's how I feel. Also, Joa says our seat has standard size hole locations, so that means that it would work with a standard side mount racing seat from Sparco or anybody.
You know, I'm thinking about it. It
Yeah,
does
so am
look-
I for Christmas.
And it's not 3 years old, Jesse. It's only about a year.
Really okay.
And
So
you-
can we buy that one for half price since it's used?
This is not coming off my rig.
You can get it at Microsoft for $2,600.
At Microsoft or Micro Center?
Microsoft. If you know somebody in school, you can get it for $2,600.
By the way, I also, when I said I'd be on a Thrustmaster Fanatic, I'd race on a G29 all day long, or 920. I almost would do that just to show that I don't care. Give me a reliable, accurate wheel and pedal, and I will do as good as I'm gonna do. Everything else you do just makes the band that much better. All right. I can't put it any easier than that. Again, if you gave me a single monitor, a G29, an office chair, and a desk, I will turn the exact same lap time. I just don't think any of it changes that. Maybe it changes the consistency. Like, okay, so what's your variance in lap times? You know, maybe you can narrow that gap by using all these bonuses, direct drive wheels and whatever, you know. Maybe that difference between your optimal and your average narrow. But I don't think your optimal gets any faster.
I found the jump from a gear-driven to a belt-driven made a difference, but I couldn't honestly say if the belt-driven to DD would. You get more power, but it's fidelity. That's what matters, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Grant, I agree. The pedals, and again, I get back to that difference between average and optimal. Well, if I get used to a set of Logitech pedals, as horrible as that sounds, give me 100 shots and at least once I'll maintain perfect braking. So my optimal is achievable even with just a potentiometer and a spring. But I think that I will be closer to my optimal on average using a load cell. And a lot more, maybe, but it's not going to actually be better than perfect. You can only be perfect.
Sean, do you remember that alien showing up at that Texas thing that they had in Dallas where everybody could bring their rigs and stuff, and the guy showed up with a G25 and he kicked everybody's ass. He just got done winning a whole bunch of races.
Yes.
That proves that you don't have to have high-end equipment to be fast.
Yep. That kid went on to win one of the iRacing World Championships. Ryan Lusa. That was Ryan Lusa.
Ryan Lusa.
Oh no, it was an old Microsoft Sidewinder Force Feedback Pro.
It's really never the equipment. It's about how good of a driver you are.
Absolutely.
And
it doesn't even matter.
And this, I don't mean this is a shot, but like
I do. The direct drive wheel doesn't make anybody better. It's good to have, but if you upgrade,
go the other way.
Huh? Go what way?
Or Eric? God. You guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
I got you.
All right. I was going the other way. It seems to be that the cheaper the wheel, the easier it is to maneuver the car, because now you're looking at... The way that I was looking at this a while ago is digital. A digital signal to a digital box to a digital car. And we're trying to get realistic feel. So if you go with a cheap box or cheap steering wheel set, it is sending a digital signal. It is, at that point in time, it's no different than a joystick or how well you can point for a headshot. Like, what is the difference between shooting for an apex on a corner and going for a headshot in a shooter game?
It's your skill level, because I got elite controllers that the pros use, and I can't hit a headshot like they can to save my life. But my wife can. She can go 54 and 5. Yeah, it's about your skill level, dude. Everything. This may make you better. It'll make you. It'll just give you more of an advantage for your skill level. But buying controllers or pedals isn't gonna make you any better at what you're trying to do until you put the time in.
I know what the reason that I've gone the route that I'm going, even with the direct drive, is I'm going after a synthetic version of a race car, and that's what I'm after.
Sure, that's what we're all trying to do.
Sidewinder wheel. That's right.
Okay, let's get back to the next level.
Okay.
All right.
I don't disagree with you, Chris. I think in the hands of the right person with the right thumb dexterity, I think, you know, there are gamers who can drive our sims as well as we can with a joystick, and at moments there's an advantage because their lock-to-lock is lightning fast.
Blasphemy.
You're on a 900-degree rotation direct drive wheel. Well, let's face it, sometimes instant counter steering, like in a rally or drifting situation, might be very difficult compared to a controller. I agree 100%. But for me, that doesn't translate for me. For me, like in iRacing, sure, it could be done, but not by me. For me, I need to feel like I'm driving, you know? All right. Anything else on the next level, and then we'll stop the feed, and then we can talk about whatever we want.
Is there a fan on the back of that power unit, and have you ever heard it kick in?
Yes, it does, but it's not terribly loud, and it's funny. It's like, it just, like, the Sim Experience fan is so much more noticeable and louder. that I don't even notice the next level unless, like, every once in a while it'll just kick on for, like, 3 seconds. That's it.
Now, after a long race of can you feel heat radiating up through it?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I haven't noticed it, but I've been in summer where everything's freaking hot.
It was 108 yesterday, so...
Yeah, well, my whole rig area is a nightmare when it comes to heat, so it's like, it didn't make it any better or worse, I don't think. Good question, now I'm thinking about it.
That is a good question.
I never noticed it, and I run in shorts. If it was hot, I'd feel it on my leg. I don't think it's anything significant. Because it's right between my legs, essentially.
You don't want radiating heat.
No.
That would suck.
So on the picture on that box, we're looking at the front of the seat?
This is the front where the power switch is, which is directly under the front of your seat.
Okay. For some reason, I thought I was looking at the back of it.
No. I'll have close-ups on the real, the edited version. That would be all.
Right. I was just looking at the box.
Yes, Lewis, I completely agree. I did I think it was in the final thoughts, I talked about, because I remember forgetting to mention it earlier in the driving paragraph, but that there was a sideways jitter very similar to the ABS jitter when going sideways. So when you lost lateral traction, you got a little shaker, and you knew to back off the wheel or back off the gas. Spatial, no, I'm not giving away. It's staying on my rig. It's 55 pounds, far too heavy to remove. That's a one-time direction thing only.
Drive and pick it up in a heartbeat.
$1,400.
Install only, no removal.
$1,500.
Truck for it.
Oh, see, that's where you guys. That's how you find out what it's really worth. At what point Sean will sell it.
So, Sean, you interested in a 96 GMC stepside?
$1,700.
Short bed?
Wait. Say that, a 97 stepside 4-wheel drive?
96 GMC Chevy 4-wheel drive stepside.
With a V8, right?
Cigarette smoked in.
V8.
Okay. No
Menthol
kidding?
lights, that is.
No, I'm joking.
Are we bartering?
Yeah, you were close, Doug.
Yeah, I don't want to ride my bicycle for another 3 years again.
I'm like, wait, no, I like that. Yeah, a 97 stepside 4x V8. Yeah, deal.
Sean's like, go back. What'd you say?
I don't need the big bed anymore. I'll take a stepside. That looks cool.
Stepsides are cool.
I'll put a roll bar in it like no one does anymore. It'll be all Fall Guy looking.
Oh,
there you go.
Sean, speaking of Fall Guy,
the
My Summer Car, I have her poster in that room in that silly game.
Oh, I saw a thing you could change your posters. Yeah.
Yeah, those are my posters I put in there.
Heather Locklear, right?
That's it, in the pink bikini.
That's
coming
right.
through the swing doors.
I own that poster.
And we all did at one time.
Nah, I had the Farrah Fawcett poster. I'm sorry.
I had Farrah for a while too.
That's the one I had.
Yep.
The Farrah Fawcett T-shirt.
That means you all had the Lamborghini as well.
No, this was a red swimsuit.
Those two girls in a sandwich. Oh, I'd be in heaven.
There you go.
Farrah Fawcett and who?
Heather Thomas.
Oh, you're gonna hate me.
Look her up, Jesse. The Fall Guy Show. Heather Thomas.
I thought that was Heather Locklear.
That was the one from Melrose.
No, Heather Thomas was Fall Guy. Heather Locklear was T.J. Hooker.
That's it, T.J. Hooker. The other Fall Guy.
If you've never seen her, make sure you type in Young first.
Yeah, good point.
Get really disappointed.
Please.
Especially with Farrah.
She looks good for her age now, though. I did look her up in the last couple of weeks.
Yep, Spatial got it. You typed it before I said it. I know. All right, you guys. I'm gonna shut down the stream, go eat some lunch, and then be ready to do some driving at around 1. I'm gonna stream it from my end. We're doing Le Mans practice for anyone who is wanting to be on the team, anybody who just wants to come play with us. So even if you're not on the team, you want to run some Ferrari at Le Mans, we're gonna do that.
Hey, Jesse.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a minute to help me set up a graphics card?
Uh-oh.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I got it.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean. See you in an hour.
I like doing them live. It makes me nervous. It makes it exhilarating and fun.
I think
Oh,
you did
Sean,
great.
I sent you a picture I found from the open house. I found another pic.
Oh, awesome. I'll check that out right now. All right.